Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday morning. Hi, Nick. How are you? Good morning, everyone. Let's have a little music. You're coming into Mind Over Matter Mondays, every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We discuss ways to control the things we can't control, to have influence over the things that we want to have influence over. And so, as you come in, I'm really excited about this subject today. Good morning. There's Lydia. And let's start with a little music as everyone comes in. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. In other words, I love you. Oh, thank you for the applause. Thank you, everyone. Here we go. Look who's here, everybody. It's so good to see you. And my beautiful co-host, Nicole Angai Galindo. She's working the controls. And let me just say hello to everyone. Good morning, Lydia. So glad that you're here. I'm not sure, we've had something at a similar time, so it's very nice to see you here. And good morning, Adrian. So nice to see you. Adrian is a master reposter of events and posts of value that she finds of value, and it's very helpful to all of us. She's also very consistent in showing up and a wonderful supporter. It's fabulous, Adrian. Thank you so much. And let's see who else. And then another wonderful supporter is Christy Williams. And she also supports, and we're in the 2350 network together with Nicole. So many of the people that are on this are in this live right now. You want to connect with them all. And we're all interested primarily in mind over matter, really understanding how thinking changes your results. The way you think, what you think, how often you think it, and the way you feel about it will always match your results. And I'll explain that, which I do most all the time. I do explain that. And let's see, we have good morning, Elizabeth. So nice to see you. Elizabeth is up in Rhode Island. She's a nurse and a multi-book author and a hypnotherapist. And there's our beautiful, thank you, Elizabeth, for being here. And our beautiful Sharon Rose Winfield, another supporter. And thank you for reposting. I think that's the first time I've seen you do that. If you've done it before, I apologize, but it's just so sweet to see that you did that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. These are the things that my parents and your grandparents listened to, right? So we don't want to lose them forever to headbanging, right? Am I right there? Okay. And And there is Joni Hargrave. Hey, Joni, so glad you're here. We got a really juicy topic today. Thank you so much for being here. Also, Deb Haas. She's an author in Nick's next upcoming anthology launching July 1st. And Deb Haas and I have done some work together in transformation, the same work, not together, but we've studied the same work together. So we have a language that we speak and understand each other. All right, look at this. Look at that. I was right. It was the first repost. Thank you. You see, I do see you. And that's part of the reason why we do this. Acknowledging you is because I've discovered when you tell me who I am for you, it's always better than what I think. And we want you to know who you are for us. We see you, we hear you. And today we're going to open the stage up early because this is all about faith today. How we develop faith, how you developed faith. Examples of when you had the faith to break through your fears. So, of course, we've talked a lot about fear and that it is automatic and it is strong. And the work we do here is strong enough, is developing our conscious awareness so that we can head off our triggers and our fears before they take over our mind and dominate our thinking with their very terrible low vibration. All right. And here is Lisa Fevick, our registered dietitian. Be sure to check in every other Tuesday afternoon. Lisa has a menopause live room where she talks all about the right foods to eat to ward off a lot of the symptoms of menopause. All right. Hey. Why, thank you. Thank you. Aren't you cute? It's all music, never lost, and headbanging has a place. It all has a place. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better, Lydia. Thank you so much. Okay, and let's see what Miss Queen Fidi says. Fidi means faith in Italian. Oh, well, Queen Faith. Isn't that great? And so let me turn it over to you. Do you have some guests in the audience, Nick, that you'd like to say hello to, acknowledge, and welcome them? Because I'd love to have you share.
Just saying good morning to everyone. I think all of the regulars are here, it looks like. So thank you for joining. It's a little quiet. I know it's because it's Father's Day weekend. Didn't look as if as many attendees as usual. I hit attend yesterday on the post, but I'm sure people will show up.
Yes. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can click the three dots at the bottom of the screen, view details, and you can share it out to your group. And there'll be people joining us, and everybody knows, right, that this is happening. So one of the things that's so important about being here consistently is repetition is the first law of learning. And actually, it's repetition that causes faith. And we're going to get into that just a little bit. Mostly what I want to hear from is you, how you develop faith. What are the practices you do? Now, I've been a deep study and I've taught people about faith, but I'm intellectual. So, while I understand vibration, it's very important for me to have a picture in my mind and understand as much as I can how something works so I can repeat it. Right? I mean, that's just my nature. Not everybody's like that. But I know many of you have your own ways of developing faith. And so I want to thank you for that, Nick. And Sharon Rose says they're coming. Hi, Leah Garcia, a Wall of Wealth woman. 1:00 on Wednesdays. She does Wealthy Wednesday and always has a great guest. And we did one not too long ago about moving from corporate into entrepreneurship and how to be able to do that without freaking out about the money part of it, right? How to prepare yourself for moving and still enjoy the whole thing. Okay, good. So lots of wonderful people here. Thank you for being here. And let me go over here and talk just a little bit about. The first thing I want to do is share with you what I know about faith. And you may say, well, who is this woman? You know me pretty well, right? So, just so you understand that I've been in personal development for some 40 years and the last 25 full time. And I have in 2008, I was certified with Bob Proctor to teach and study his work to be certified as a coach and a consultant based in Think and Grow Rich. And Bob Proctor was the world's authority on Napoleon Hill's #2 bestseller of all time in personal development, Think and Grow Rich. And over 17 years, I have taught it every single week, read the book over 90 times, along with many other things. And so, what I'm going to tell you is how I began to understand faith and how to purposely make it happen, how to manifest faith in my ability and my deservability, because most of us have faith in all our fears. So really, we've talked about conscious and subconscious, but look at it this way. You have 6 basic fears. They're reactive, they're low vibrational, they're strong, and they're not thinking. And 95% of people, research shows, just go through life reacting, not really thinking. And we haven't really developed how to think strategically. So the one faith that we all have, I'll assume, is a faith in a divine power, spirit, God, energy, the universe. We could assume that it's all one, that we can give it any label we want, that we don't understand 100% how it works, but we don't have to because we've seen the evidence. Okay, so we've all seen the evidence of faith. You don't have to be a mathematician to understand it all. If you see it working, then that's what's important. Now, in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich is the roadmap to millions, to live a life of wealth, health, and happiness. And why it's so important is because he spent 20 years interviewing 500 of our country's most happy, healthy, and wealthy citizens at the behest of Andrew Carnegie to find out what they were doing that no one else was doing. They were building faith. The whole thing is designed because what you have faith in will show up on your doorstep. It's as simple as that. What you have faith in and you believe is embedded in your subconscious, and it cannot be rejected or changed. Consider. And whatever you believe sets your physical vibration through what you're thinking. And you will attract to you, based on the law of vibration, who you're being. It's really that simple. Whatever you think the most, and in spaced repetitive intervals over time, and what you're feeling will match your results. And that's exactly how you build faith. So just consider that faith occurs in 3 phases. I use 12-week goals, but these are things you can notice to watch the development of your own faith in your ability to achieve this thing, whatever it is. First of all, you're going to give it a whirl. You haven't done it before, or you failed at it. But for whatever reason, you're compelled, you're going to do it. Your intuition says go. So you do that. And you go through thinking about it and visualizing it and taking 2 steps a week toward that goal. And this allows other people and opportunities to be drawn into your path. So about halfway through, so that's expectation. All right, I'm going to give it a whirl. So you do this for about 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden people start showing up with answers. I wanted to be on a podcast. How did you know? You are a cause in the matter of your own results by what you're thinking that dominates your conscious mind. All we're doing here is setting aside fear, which has no conscious mind. It's all reaction like animals, right? It's a vibration. It's a trigger. All the fears are triggers from a bad experience you had. Simple as that. And they're stronger than faith. The only thing we have faith in, like I said, is in God. But it's not enough to outweigh all your fears. But we do it. And that's really what I want to look for today. So then once you start seeing people show up and you thought it was a coincidence, It's not. Now you're starting to believe it. That is, you now have a firm opinion that I'm going to do this. And then when you complete the goal at 12 weeks or whatever it is, it divides into thirds pretty much when these things show up. Once you've completed it, you have perfect faith. You know that it works, and your own ability and deservability has grown. So your self-image and your ability is tied up in how you manage your fears. And fears can't manage themselves. And God alone can't manage all the fears. So what do we do? What do we do that builds faith? So we know that repetition is the first law of learning. We went to church, if it's church, right? We went to church every Wednesday and every Sunday, or at least every Sunday or every Friday, right? And you got the same information. But as you become more consciously aware, more things will become clear to you. We're not all ready at the same time to understand all of this. So anything that I'm saying or anybody here says that is confusing to you, let it go. You're not ready for it yet. And I'll give you an example. Not everybody understands everything at the same rate. That's why I want all of you to come up in just a few minutes and talk about the things about faith. But I'll give you an example about how we're not ready yet to know our full self-worth. When I was learning algebra, I very often with math and geometry, I didn't understand it. The teacher would give us a worksheet, completely confused. And I get home and I still didn't understand it. Then I'd ask my dad, who is an electrical and chemical engineer, who graduated high school at 15 and college at 18, and he was extremely impatient. How could I not understand it? So there began my self-worth. I'm not smart enough. My dad was a genius. He would become impatient with me that I could not get this concept, which began to build the fear of criticism and judgment in myself. We all have this to an extent. And then on the bus going to school the next day, my girlfriend, we're sharing the seat. She shows me how she did it, and bingo, all of a sudden I get this light bulb moment. But you see, it's almost like I had to fertilize. I had to learn certain aspects of it before that light bulb would come on. All this goes to show that repetition is the first law of learning. Now, let me hop over here really quickly and run through what we're doing today, okay? So we've talked a lot about fears. Whatever we have faith in, we will manifest. And fears are the biggest thing we have faith in. That's why only a few people are really wealthy, happy, and healthy. Some people are wealthy and miserable. Some people are happy, healthy, and have no money, right? So how do you get all three? That's our nature. That's where we're headed. So there is always the opposite of fear, and this is the nature of the universal law. For every negative, there's a positive. So what we're trying to do here is to kind of catch the trigger and flip it on its ear and look for the good in it. Because for every up, there's a down. For every negative, there's a positive. We know this consciously and intellectually, but the trigger is stronger and faster, and only one thought prevails. Which one will continue prevailing? So what we really do is take intentional thinking and action in consistent spaced repetitive intervals over time, which when you complete it, you've disproven one of those fears once. But the faith in God, it wasn't once, it was a lifetime. So the work I do is really tracking how we got those fears. And then over the last 17 years, helping some 500 people go through my program so that they learned this process of what's called transmutation of radiant energy. It's exactly how your idea, what it does and how it moves through us in order to cause the attraction of the thing you want to land in your lap. So we're going to look at today, and I've shown you, I've shared a few things with you about what I know and what I know works about the process, but there are many things that people do. This is what I've learned, which I'm sharing with you. So we want to take a look at what actions would you suggest to take to develop your faith in yourself. Now, we get the faith in God piece, and that is valuable, no doubt. But remember, faith in God or a supreme being is not enough to outwit a lifetime of fears. And there are 6. So when people say the voice in my head, no, there are 7 voices in your head. 6 of them are fears and 1 is faith. Well, we want to load up our subconscious and automatic thinking with faith in our ability and deservability by disproving that which we failed at, because we've grown. So we're ready now to do that thing. Maybe we weren't ready back then. Also, I'm looking for a really good example of when you stepped out on faith and blew through a fear, and how you knew that you blew through it. And then the bottom line is here. Well, let me just see here. And if you already have faith, what could we all learn from you? What is something that you did that actually helped you develop your faith and to strengthen it? And then, or any one of these, pick one, right? So it's over on the events page. Pick one when you come up on stage to discuss, above all, what does faith mean to you and how does it show up in your life? So let's see who else is here. I guess we're good. We've got lots of fun, wonderful. Let's see what Lydia says here. Faith that sets a belief that our own distrust is valued. Yeah, it's saying the same thing, little more complex, but just the same. We can have faith. Faith is the belief, and it is valid, and it's based on bad examples, fear. And every time we think of it again, it brings up the visualization and the low vibration. And the more times you do that, the more you believe in it. So thank you for that. That's wonderful. Okay, Nick, I hope you're coming back soon, because now we're going to go on and I want to ask you a question, but let's look here and see who's here. Good morning, Tracy. So good to see you. Thank you so much. That's why we're here, to touch your heart. I spent all these years learning all of this. I'm not taking it with me. I'm giving it to you. There was a time when I was worried that someone might steal something, but I got to tell you, nobody teaches this the way I do. I've taught it for 17 years and 20,000 hours. And articulating complex concepts in simple form is my expertise. And I get better and better and better at it. It gets simpler. For example, I pretty much teach these concepts at a 4th grade level because I don't know what level of awareness people are on. So it's really important that the concepts are very simple, right? So that you can absorb them and apply them. The whole idea is to repeat the process that caused your fears. That's how faith is built. We have faith in our fears. Something to consider. All right, let's see. Yes, you are seeing awesome comments. Always, always. Okay. This is good. All right. Hi, Show and Doll. So glad you're here. Another wonderful new friend. Thank you for being here. It's so good to see you. And there's Ashif. Ashif is, here we go. Ashif is up in Toronto. Make sure you connect with these people. If you don't connect, at least follow them. All right. From one queen to another. Okay, Nick. So let's kick this off, and I'll put the link to join the studio. We're going to do it a little earlier. So what I want to know from you, from the different things, I was wondering, knowing a little bit about your background, I would love if you could give us an example, because you've got a good one, of how you stepped out on faith and blew through one of those 6 fears. So you had the fear, we all do, and this is, particular fear, and you can say what it is, but faith outweighed that fear. And so I'm dying to hear the story about that. Would you share with us, please?
Hi, Sure. Good morning. All right. I've shared before, a lot of you know that I left my job 4 months ago and started the publishing company. So there was definitely some fear there in terms of, um, leaving the security of a job and a paycheck and benefits and being able to sustain so the bills can continue to be paid. Um, so yeah, I did take a leap of faith. I wouldn't say I took it blindly. I did have some already knowing of what I was capable of doing. But there was a lot more that needed to be done once I fully stepped into entrepreneurship. And that I wasn't exactly sure how to do. So I learned that as I was going. And honestly, week over week, the more I do what I do, the less fearful I am. So, even just about a month ago, I was stressing that, you know, okay, I have this lined up, that lined up, I have this many books coming out. Um, but am I hitting my target goals financially? Because I do need to earn X amount in order to pay bills. Um,
So what is it that had you step out on faith, okay, to actually do this? And what was the fear that you blew right through in that moment? You had to outweigh the natural fear of what? And what was it that had you do that?
for me personally, it was my passion. That's what I wanted to do. That's what would make me happy. And I wanted more for myself. So that was enough for me to say, I have a chance to take this step. I'm going to take this step. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but it's now or never. And um, yeah, I chose me. I chose my happiness. So
Okay, so there was an incident that occurred that had you step out on faith, right? And into which fear? Which fear did you have to overcome with that faith to step out and do the thing that you love?
fair poverty.
Exactly. Thank you. So that is actually, and so there was something inside of you. Now, I say that as co creators, it is our intuition, it's the whisper of the universe. And it got loud enough based on your passion to have you say, you know what? Poverty is matter, right? I want to do this more than I'm afraid of the money. And that, would that be an accurate description? Because you did have the fear of poverty, right? And then the other thing that happened with Nick was she had already begun building a reputation for herself and living a certain way. So she had already begun to move people toward her, right? What you want is moving toward you at the same amplitude of cellular vibration that you're moving toward it. So if you're basically a positive, faithful person, right, and you believe people and you expect the best from people, that's a high vibration. And that's who you were, even when you were in the full time job, right? And you took the risk. So this is what I want people to understand, that it's one or the other. And overcoming fear is hard, and very few people do it. Very few. Yes,
I
Nick.
want to say though that, like you say, I believe the best in people and expected, the most from people. That came after because it started with believing the most in myself and expecting the best from myself. And once I did that, then um, people came. And I didn't have any expectations of the people coming, but they did come. But
But
that
they
was,
came based on who you were being.
yeah, because that's
Once,
because I first embraced and I
yes,
first believed. And
yes.
that is the part that you have to overcome that fear. You can't overcome that fear by placing your um I can't think of the word, but you can't overcome that fear by placing that onus on other people. Other
No,
people's drive is not
right.
going to make you overcome the fear. It's your drive that's going to make you overcome the fear.
Right. And we are a reflection. So we're looking in others for who we are. So as you develop that in yourself, that's what you started looking for in other people. When you look for the greatness that you are in other people, your own greatness grows. So very much of what you said is true. And that's worthy of its own show, frankly. Just that conversation, Nick. So fantastic. Hello to Sandra, our NLP girl. We'd love to have you come up on stage. I've put the link in the comments, and it's also at the event. Absolutely, totally happy to do that. Faith, what's the power? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I taught James everything. No, I'm just kidding. We bring up our lovely friend Deb Haas. Good morning, Deb. Yeah.
Good
Hi, Deb.
morning. How are ya?
I am good. How are you? Did you get one of those things out of all of the list of ways that we'd love to hear
Ah,
you
shoot.
contribute?
I didn't see it, Leslie.
Well, let me read it
Ah,
to you really quick because
okay. Okay.
I want to keep this on context,
Totally got that.
because yeah. Just so that we can stay. Let's see, where is it? Hold on a second. Oh, goodness gracious. Sorry. Okay, let me go back over here to details. Excellent. All right. So we're looking at a number of things. What actions have you used, Deb, to further develop your own faith? Okay. And, or do you have a good example of when you stepped out on faith, blew through a particular fear? And if you don't remember the name of it, that's fine. But you had to overcome it to step out on faith because you didn't know how, or you had already failed at it. And do you know what you were thinking? Or if you already had faith in something, what could you tell us that we could do, a practice that you've used to strengthen your own faith that we could also use, a practice? What are the components, and what does faith mean to you, and how does it show up in your life? I know that's a lot,
So many
but
options, Leslie. So many options. My
I'm
brain.
sorry. I know
No,
it's
no, 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 no.
confusion.
You do
Okay,
not,
pick one.
honey. You never have to apologize with me.
Okay.
There's so much there. As far as faith is concerned, I have it really tied in with trust. And how that shows up is actually trusting myself. So having faith in myself. That started showing up for me last fall, probably around August, September, when I determined that, you know what, the only way that I was going to reach the goal that I wanted to reach was if I started my own business. And so then this thing that had been in the back of my head for years, like literally 8 or 9 years, it was like, all right, well, I guess that's what's going to happen. And it just became this certainty that this is what I need to do. So then it was, okay, in order to make this manifest, right? What do I need to do? Or who do I need to be? Those kind of things. And what came up really, the first thing was that I need to trust myself. Like trust that what's coming out of my mouth is exactly the right thing that needs to come out of my mouth at that time. Trust that the people that I'm running into are what the universe are sending to me and are providing me each little piece of this puzzle called Deb Starts a Business. And it continues that way. I keep, magically running into all the people or encountering opportunities that will push forward my goal of starting my own business. Did that answer it? And I'm not
Well,
exactly
yeah,
sure
but
what.
what was okay? So yes, and what was the fear?
I mean, I was listening to you and Nick, and there's a part of me that's actually there's a fear of success that I actually at some points had.
Yeah,
There really has been a fear of success,
yeah.
and it's kind of when I look at it, I'm like, wow, that's really, and I want to discount it and poke fun at myself, but I'm like, no, 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 I'm going to honor that. I'm honoring that. That's the very real fear that's been there. Um,
And yes, and that one comes from failing and being humiliating or doing it wrong or people
Exactly. Yeah. Then
laughing at you
that's
or you're not.
absolutely accurate, Leslie. That is absolutely accurate. Yep. Fear of success.
And that's so you had to. Now there's one other thing I want to say about this, Deb, and then of course I want Nick to share too. But look, here's the thing. Starting that business that you said you've had it for 8 or 9 years.
No. I had the idea of doing a
That's what I'm
business later. Yeah.
okay. That's
Yeah.
I understood this. I apologize. So yes, that you had the idea for 8 or 9 years. You simply weren't ready
No.
yet. And let me just tell you how I know that the universe, you are co-creator, and your intuition is what guides you, and that's how you communicate with the universe, through your cellular vibration, through intuition. The universe is always with you and whispering the next step, but the fears, if you'll consider, are very loud, so you don't always hear that whisper. But here's the thing. When I first wrote Errata, I wrote the outline 25 years ago. And it was a dream that I had, only, and it was from love, right? But I was in no position to write about virtues, values, and love 25 years ago. So I had the outline and I put it away. And then 23 years later, I got the idea again. Oh, maybe now is the time. So sometimes the goal that we want, very often, if it's bigger than we're ready for, the universe will hold back and will actually say, you're not ready. Why would the universe do this? Why would God do this? Because the intention of spirit and God is for you to live a life of wealth, health, and happiness. And if you do it before you're ready, those fears do take over. So I wanted to point that out, Deb, that over those 8 years, you've been sowing the seeds, you've been developing conscious awareness. And then one day the universe whispered to you, you've done enough, Deb, now's the time. And you blew right into it. That's a kind of a pretty visualization of what could happen. Did that sound kind of like where you were going?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was an idea that had popped into my head over the years, and I always had an excuse for why I couldn't do it. And then, of course, all the things happened where I had burnout and I lost my father and I was in partial hospitalization for depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. And then I got laid off from my 24-year career. And I was like, the idea of going back to corporate, going back to that just felt like prison, like the whole idea of doing that. And then I was led to go ahead and get tested because maybe I had ADHD. And then finding out that I was diagnosed with ADHD with executive function deficits, that was like, that's been the kind of the burning, all my life, I had beaten myself up. All my corporate or all my adult life, I'd beaten myself up for not being as good as everyone else. Like everyone else, it just seems so effortless. All these things just seem so effortless for them to do. And yet I'm like, constantly anxiously on top of everything and having to be hyper aware all the time of what was going on just to keep up is how it felt. And then now it was like, oh, it's my brain. I have a left-handed brain. Oh, well, now I can, all this energy that I've been using to beat myself up or to be hyper aware of all these things where I don't fit in, I can actually put that energy somewhere else. And that's where the business is coming from. And it's built out of, I wanted to make sure when I built it that it was built out of, number one, something that I wanted to do, not something that I just did because I had the skills to do it. Because there's so many things that I'm good at, but not all of them light me up, And
It's the
so,
one, yeah, it's the one that lights you up. And
yep,
and you have a co-creator. So now understand that if you don't achieve your goal, everyone listening, like exactly when you want it, it could be that it's bigger than you are right now.
yep,
That the concept, bringing it and being compelled to bring it into the world as your idea, your goal, the difference you want to make, requires learning. So,
yes,
right. And so what happened is that there's a story in Think and Grow Rich about Fannie Hurst, who wrote so many books that were movies that your parents and that you watched too, I'm sure. Imitation of Life is a real tearjerker, right? It was the first time that they had interracial challenges in that movie. John Gavin and, I can't think of all the actors. Anyway, Fannie Hurst in 1915 came from Ohio she wanted to be a writer. And she came to New York to walk the streets of Broadway. And she did for 4 years. She was rejected 36 times by the New York Post. 36 times, excuse me, the New Yorker, one of those two. Most of us would have gone home. But at the end of 4 years and all those rejections, as she pounded the streets of Broadway, one day, the universe gave up. Basically said, okay, Fannie, you've put in what you need to. She then got her first advance of $100,000 for a play that she hadn't published yet. And no one else had done that. No man, right? But look at how persistent she was. Look at the fears, the fear of money, the fear of humiliation, the fear of failure, right? Then in came the movie people. And so the money just started gushing into her. But look at it, took her 4 years of pounding the pavement. There's another YouTube video that you can look at. It's called The Miracle of Chinese Bamboo. And bamboo takes 5 years to sprout.
Oh my God, Leslie, you are bringing it. Someone just brought this up around when you plant it, it takes 5 years, and a lot of people give up before it reaches that point. You're like the third person to say this to me in the last week. So this is the perfect message for me to hear right now, because I've had a lot of impatience around everything. And yeah. And the fear of success is absolutely accurate, because I realize that I've had a fear of, what does happen if this business succeeds? What will that change? And also, there's a vulnerability there that most of my life I avoided being vulnerable up until I was about in my 40s. When I met my now husband, I was single my entire life until I was 43, and I met my now husband. And then I got married at the age of 48 because I was finally able to be vulnerable. So vulnerability has always been an issue for me. And I think that when you're creating a business that's designed around what lights you up, that business is you, and it puts you in a spotlight.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times the fear of that is what.
Yeah. Listen, it's the fear of, it's the fear of criticism and judgment.
Yes.
The fear of poverty, the fear of illness, the fear of loss of love. Like, I don't want to go out with them because my last relationship was awful. So we've got that fear, or a partner dies, or there's a divorce. And then there's fear of old age and death. So really the top two are fear and poverty. Criticism, judgment, and poverty. Nick, gosh, we've gone on way too far. I've said too much. I want to hear from you. What's coming up? What one thing is Deb talking about that really piqued your interest that you would love to share about?
No, I really like Deb's share. I think that fair success is real. And until recently, I probably experienced a bit of that. And, I don't look at it as something that held me back. I look at it as I needed to reach a certain level of self-awareness, because I've practiced it. It's happened time and time again. I've hit the goals. And as things started to grow as rapidly as they have in the publishing company, I would often tell my husband, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I wake up almost every day and somebody's reaching out. And so it could be a part of, yes, fair success, but that comes back to my confidence. And then the other part of it would be fair, perhaps a failure, but not necessarily of the business feeling, because there's been too much proof now that the business is moving forward. Rather, Deb mentioned spotlight, which just makes me think the fear of failure, because I don't want to fail the people that I'm serving. and the expectations that they have of me, which they're all within their rights to have expectations because I have delivered. So therefore, when they say I have delivered, they expect that I will continue to deliver. So it doesn't matter which book I publish or how many books I publish that hit number one international bestseller. Every single book I publish, I still have that small fear at the back of my head. Is this going to be successful? The difference is that I have more faith than I ever had. So
That's right.
my fears I can keep at bay enough that I could keep moving forward. So
That
I
is,
don't disregard the fear. I know it's there. I give it its space because part of me becoming stronger and growing is the fact that I would be putting that fear in its place every single time I succeeded.
yes, yes.
Thank you for your
And
share, Deb.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Thank
okay.
you for your share, Deb.
Oh, yeah, it was fabulous. And the thing is look at how similar these experiences are. So Nick knew she really wanted to do this. She was building while she was working full time, she was building this self-image, actually doing the work, proving that she could do it even before it was time. But when it was time, she got the thumbs up. She had hit, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, or the universe said, you are ready. And you had already brought all these people to you. The same thing happened with Deb. Deb's took a little longer, right? But we all go through this. And I think that is what's important here. And the other thing about what you said, Nick, because you see, you're heart centered and you already know to be heart centered. You're in service all the time. So here's an example, and y'all come up on stage. There's a lot of people. Good morning, Sean, Michael. So glad you're here. Let's see. We're doing good. Oh, and I know Lydia has a show. She's starting in about 10 minutes, and appreciate your adjusting the time for that. That is wonderful. We're going to finish up at 11:15. Now, no, I can't remember what I was going to say, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's go on. And anybody who wants to come up on stage. So, Deb, this was fantastic. Let me look back over here and see. Okay, so what actions? Let me give you a couple of things here that I've come up with. And the first thing that Deb talked about was faith as trust. Now, what is the trust? The trust is in your own ability and deservability, trust in yourself. And if you know that you are a co-creator, in other words, you don't do all this stuff on your own. You have a partner. You may not understand exactly how that partnership works, but you do know, you've seen where faith actually has good results and can outweigh fear. So some people look at it as a deep trust in God or the universe, and then others are going to think of it as trust in themselves. Well, and it's also a religious principle. It's also a source of strength. And also, what do you guys think about this? Faith requires that we ignore logic. How do you deal with that? Because when we don't know exactly how something works, we're going to logically try to figure it out in our mind. But faith requires more than logic, or not only logic. Either one of you, what are your thoughts?
Completely agree. It, in fact, sometimes it almost feels like it's counter to logic. You know, when you're and a lot of it has to just it's the giving up of the questions, and it's the listening to yourself and listening to the tiny voices, which makes me sound insane. All those tiny voices Deb's hearing. It and
We all
sometimes
have it. We all have those.
we all have the tiny voices, yes. And a lot of times when I was in partial hospitalization, I had a really hard time recovering because I had built so much of my value around what I was producing. And if I wasn't producing something, then how could I be worth anything? And so the healing required a lot of faith. Everyone kept telling me, Deb, just keep doing what you're doing, keep writing in your journal, keep expressing yourself, keep identifying your feelings. And so there, for someone who my husband describes as Deb can't wait to be impatient, that whole thing took, it took quite a bit of faith that if I keep doing this, if I keep writing in this stupid journal every frickin' night, and I was in this place of, not having let myself feel feelings for 30, 40 years, and allowing myself to feel the things that didn't feel good because I had spent my entire life avoiding them. There had to be a lot of faith there. I had to just trust that this is what was going to happen, that, following through and doing the thing. And I think that's what a lot of people have problems with. You were talking, Leslie, about daily practices or things that you could do. And I can't believe there's still a part of me that finds it absolutely miraculous that writing in a journal 5 minutes every night just to identify what I was feeling and then identify the three things that day that I was grateful for would make that big of a difference in healing, because it almost, when I look back on it now, of course, at the time while you're doing it, you're like, oh, here I am again, or today I don't feel like showing up on the page, or some days it's like, okay, now I'm writing 5 pages because there's so much. But looking back on it, to me, it's a little bit miraculous that just doing that would completely alter how I looked at life. I mean, it wasn't the only thing, but that was the practice that kept me focused. And showing up at that page every day just made a huge difference for me. And I had no idea that it would.
I love that. And how about you, Nick? Do you find the same thing in reading and writing, in anything similar to what Deb is experiencing?
So, part of me feels that faith defies logic, yes, but part of me also feels that some of my faith is actually based on my logic. So, some of my logic tells me that if I do A, B, and C, then that would equal D. And I know this to be the truth for me. So that's a logical thought. And that logical thought helps me to step out of that fear. Now, that's not the same for everything. The other part of it for me is getting to a point where I stopped drawing a line between the personal Nick and the professional Nick. There's one Nick. So my personal lends to my professional. And I won't go the other way right now. But it stopped being about me being productive and accomplished because the company is doing well. That became about Nick doing well. Nick's doing well in her business, but Nick's also doing well in her personal life. So the fact that Friday I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I went out and I did shopping and I came home and I cooked my husband a beautiful meal and surprised him after a while with a Mexican meal. And he walked in with cumbia music. And so to me, that right there was also productivity and accomplishing something. So because I feel now I can acknowledge one set of accomplishments between the personal and professional, I don't take any hits that I receive professionally as hard as I would have before. Because I've combined now both into, okay, on a 100% scale, even if some days are 50 personal and 40 business or vice versa, I am 90% accomplishing. And that's a win for me.
I love it. That's that.
I've
That's
been trying to take it from that direction as well. Because every day I don't work 8 hours.
right.
Some days I work 10, some days I work 6. But I'm not going to tell myself, oh, you didn't put in a 10-hour day, so you're not accomplished.
That's right.
Absolutely not. I've accomplished other things. I've picked back up gardening, and there's my seeds are sprouting. To me, that's an accomplishment. So that's my share.
Excellent, excellent. And what I want to share with you is that the logical part of you that you're referring to is synthetic imagination. It's your experiences. So it's strategic thinking. So a little different than faith as opposed to the logic of faith, because there isn't, because you don't know the logical path. But the reality is that your own experiences have value. And that's the learning that's required. And so you basically draw on those. So that logic is your own strategic thinking that you've developed to help flush out ideas. And that was excellent. So I want to bring up really great, both of you. That was really excellent, Deb. I love it. And here comes Sean Michael. Now, let me just say one thing he just said so we can, he likes to ask, welcome, Sean. Let's see, here's what he said was, I like to ask myself, what is this fear attempting to protect me from? Well, I'm going to say that it protected you when you were 7. It no longer protects you at all. And I'll throw that out there. It actually diminishes, because when we're 7 or 8 and we have that fear, every time we think about it again, we're resurrecting that cellular vibration and further embedding the fear. So it might have, when you were 7 or 8, you didn't stand up and do something or speak in front of the class because you've been humiliated before, but now you're 48 or 58, you still are afraid to get up on stage for that fear of criticism. So it no longer protects you. It is the trigger to its opposite, which is faith. So that thing that protected me at one time from being humiliated no longer does that. It's still doing it, but it's diminishing who I am as a person. It's keeping my cellular vibration at a very low vibration, amplitude, or velocity, and it brings in disease. So it really, so that I think is an interesting question. But you can tell easily what the 6 basic fears are and how they show up. It protected you against being humiliated when you were embarrassed because you spoke out of turn, right? You didn't go on the field trip because you couldn't afford it. Everybody else got to go. I'm poor. Every time there was a field trip or something else, now you're thinking about how I can't do it, right? Then if you go into a crowd around COVID and you were afraid to not have your mask on. So at one point, these things were important, but they're no longer important now, other than to know that you're triggered and you need to find the opposite. I'm not smart enough. The opposite is not only am I smart, but people are looking for what I have. Talk about building your own self-confidence. Oh, Deb's taken off. So that's my 2 cents on that. And Nick looks like me. And Sean, welcome, welcome, welcome. Tell me what you think about that or anything else based on the comments that we want to speak about today. So what's on your mind, my friend?
So I think you illustrated it perfectly, Leslie. That fear, that event happened in our developmental stage and early in our life. And as you said, we repeat it to where, like the money thing, it started as I don't have the money for that, which is an event. It's a fact. I don't have the money for it, to I'm poor. So now we've absorbed it into our identity. I'm poor. I'm stupid. I'm not a good speaker. And that
we have faith in that. Don't we have faith?
That becomes our God. Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it becomes so much of who we are.
Yes.
And the brain, from a neuroscientific, it doesn't fear outcomes. It protects us. It acts to protect us from certain emotions. So
Right.
whatever the emotion is coming up, so that's why I specifically said attempting to protect. My brain thinks it's protecting me, but as you said, I don't need protection from that. I'm not the same as
Bless
I
you.
was when I was 7 or
Right.
8 or
Right.
5 or whatever.
And let me ask you, is it really brain or is it mind? Because there's a huge distinction in the two. So are you collapsing them together? What is happening here?
Here I'm collapsing them together, looking at them from both a scientific aspect, that neuroscientifically our brain does certain things. They've proven it again and
Yep.
again and again. But
Yep.
also in the personal growth realm, in
Mhm.
all this, we talk about the mind. And I
Mhm.
go even deeper, and I divide in my learning and my study is there's two sides. There's the unconscious processes that often is operating and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
It's why I learned early on I was a chaos instigator because of my childhood. Seriously, when life started getting good and things were good, my relationship was good, job was good, everything was good, something inside me like, oh no, this is too smooth, we gotta cause some problems, like stirred up the
It's the
bee's
devil
nest.
in you. You were a devilish little fella.
Right. Well, and now I've turned that power to good. On my podcast, I'm a disruptor. I did topics like the grind is a god and you're still worshiping it, or the authenticity trap. I'm approaching the common topics from a new angle. I'm erupting chaos because let's break out of the junk,
Yeah,
because we're all playing too small.
I agree. I absolutely agree. If you've already done the goal before, it's not a good goal. You must pick something you've never done before or you've failed at. Gosh, Sean, I really love that. Nick, anything you want to say about Sean's share? And then we'll move right over to Queen LaFaith.
I love to share and break out of it already. So yeah, there are things that I am doing now and I will continue to do, but there are new things that I keep wanting to do and I am doing them. I need to continue growing. So the only way for me to keep growing is to keep doing things that I've not done before.
That's right.
So I
That's
do
right.
appreciate that. And I also asked myself that question when you shared it about what might I be protecting myself from. Um, and that if I go back and I think about it, it could be that there was a time where this is something I have not done regularly. So therefore I didn't, go well. And now that was the fail. But then once I could identify it, I could now use to me to keep going I have in others that I've not done before. So
That's right.
I do appreciate that. Thank you. I also
Okay. All right. Okay. So I want to go to Queen LaFaith. That was great, Nick. I'm really loving where this conversation is going. Let me do one thing really quickly and welcome also Joni to the stage. I do want to say one thing to my friend Adrian here. So about the journaling, let me explain. Deb brought it up and why it works. This is an explanation of what's happening. There's a thing called authentic journaling. And there's a process that occurs when you journal at the same time every day and you simply start asking questions. And it's really only for 5 minutes and you can have an idea of what exactly. Let me just put you on mute. We're hearing a lot of noise here. Just a second. Here we go. There we go. So here's what happens when you journal like that every day, Deb, and for those of you who are interested in authentic journaling, You do it at the same time every day. You do it for 5 minutes. You ask questions, you answer the questions, you just write. Right. Everything sounds the same to you, the questions, the answers in your head. There will come a time when you will notice the answers have a different voice. You're actually communicating now with your partner, with the universe, with God. So you're actually going to hear the inner voice of God and the universe. Now remember, we're co-creators. So God is always present through our intuition. But our fears are reactive. That's not the same. A lot of people think that intuition is your gut feeling. It is not. Intuition is your connection to the universe. It's the whisper of God that tells you what's your high side, what really should you be doing. But typically the fears are so loud, you can't even hear it. So if you want to know what to do about journaling, if you want to communicate with God and the universe, start journaling 5 minutes every day. And it's a magical process. I didn't make it up. It's been around for a long time. But it's exciting. Christine, unmute.
Wow. Okay. So I actually wanted to share about journaling. So it
Okay,
was the
good.
perfect intro.
Good.
I've been, I wasn't going to talk about specific things I've accomplished, though I think you know about at least one of them, but there's a few. But what I was going to talk about is just like the process. So even even in the case of right now too, I'm trying to lose weight and watch my diet, and just writing down what I'm eating and what my plan is for the day, whatever it is. And then I am doing a lot of deep journaling at the same time every morning. I'm actually working through my resentments again, and I am noticing so many more, and I've done this before, but I'm noticing so many more patterns, and I'm writing like stars all over the place, like eureka moment. And the biggest thing I noticed that I don't know why I didn't notice it before is because I grew up in an alcoholic home and certain things happened to me, I always had to be the fixer and the one in charge and the adult and the this and that. And I don't even know if and the, like even to relate to Deb, like be overproductive and, over achieving over everything. And I don't even know if I attract under type people because of my over energy. But it was just such this aha moment of really, again, sometimes I don't know how much self-knowledge, really helps. It's sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I really felt overwhelmed just having that revelation. And I really, like you said, you don't always know where it comes from, but it just like sort of suddenly like the words on the page were like lifting up and like sending me a message or something. So yeah, I'll land there.
No, I love that. And I mean, that's the magic of this work, isn't it? It's these revelations, these things that maybe we always dreamed of. When I was 12, most of my dreams were about being a magician, right? And now at 50, I realized I always have been, that I am cause in the matter, and I am a magician. So thank you for that. That was a wonderful share. And let us move on to Joni. Joni, which one of those, because we're getting close to the hour here, and I want to make sure that we hear from Sandy. So of all, Sandra, excuse me. Which of all these topics have become, by the way, top of mind? That's what happened to you, Christine.
Right.
These things became top of mind. So what is on your mind? What one piece of this that you are so smart in so many things would you have us take? Thank you, Queen Lafiti. Would you have us take that has worked for you?
So I think when I was thinking over your topic and the other wonderful shares that sorry, I could put that on. That, it takes like an act of courage to get out of a feeling of not having faith. And that has happened to me many times. I'm not specifically very religious, but I certainly practice Christianity and I find comfort in it. But when you go through something traumatic, it shakes your belief in it. And so I was going to share with you guys, I love to sing, and I have been in a band before, and one of my band members sings at like a mega church, which if you knew my growing up, like mega churches were like, whoa, no, we don't do that. And she was like, why don't you come by and just see? And so it was really just like comfortable and nice, and it was fine. And she's like, why don't you come sing with me on stage? And I was like, I mean, we usually sing at a pub for like 15 people. Like, this is like, there's 1,000 people here. And I am not exactly like stage shy, but like I was just going through stuff, and I was like, okay. And so we put together a song, and I can play like 10 seconds of it for you if you'd like. I don't know how the music's going to translate, but if you want to hear it. But it was like a really liberating feeling for me because, just it was one of those times where I just like took a leap of faith.
Yeah, and you had a lot of stuff going on, which means you had a lot of noise in your head.
It was a lot of noise.
It wasn't like
at that moment singing, it just was, it was gone. It was gone. And so sometimes extreme gets met with the other extreme.
And actually, that is always true. That's one of the laws, the law of rhythm. Your low will match your high. Your lowest low in life will have to have its exact opposite. You just don't know when it is. So even you,
I didn't know that law, but I believe you. It's like literally that you're like, "Urgh." And then all of a sudden, like you can do something pretty incredible. It does not have to be singing. It could just be like running around the block or something.
No, I think that's great. It's a perfect example of that, the fact that the fears never go away. They don't ever go away. You cannot change those. You cannot change those fears. You create new faith. But you'll notice that the fears, like Nick was talking about, her own logic. So the experiences that we've had in the past are part of our synthetic imagination. So they are useful. And you can't change one stone into another stone, right? So you're going to always have your fears, but their voices in them get quieter. But in your case, Joe, you had a lot of stuff going on at once. And even though you were a master at singing, and in another condition, you could get right up and sing. But you see, those fears are all saying, yeah, but Joni, you haven't done this in a long time. And what if the music doesn't work and all that business? And so you have like a conflict between faith and fear.
Yep.
Excellent.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So here, let me play a little snip of for you guys, because someone recorded it in the audience. So there's no real video, but let's see.
Is that you? Is that you? Oh. Very good. Thank you.
Oh, wait, we got one more.
Rise like the day will rise up.
This I believe. Realize that I can.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It's so cool. Now we're at time here, or 11:15, but I absolutely must hear. Thank you for sharing that, Joni. You're such a smarty. I love it.
Pop on for a real quick minute. I'm so sorry. I have a hard
Please.
stop. Absolute hard stop for me.
At
So
11:15.
yeah.
Okay.
So I am in the background. I will have it on, so I will be looking at the comments and putting in comments. Up there goes my door. There's my hard stop.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
sorry.
Well, tell us really quickly what
One
you have.
moment.
I'll tell them what you have going on this week.
But I do love your share, Junie. I just want to say that too. I'll share something with you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, Sandra, welcome to the stage. And you know, we're over time here, but I absolutely was not going to end without hearing from you, my friend.
No, amazing shares today. And Johnny, I didn't know you're singing, and I'm so excited for that to listen, and I want to learn more. Didn't know that, and congratulations for going for it. I think you mentioned something about being late, right? When you were sharing, and you know that was my fear too when I start thinking about pursuing my passion. I was thinking it's late, but anyway, I did it. And what I wanted to share is my fear was not being enough to succeed on my own terms. But I still went ahead and step away from corporate America and start really following what really fulfill my soul. And it was learning a lot about, I share a lot in this in Leslie rooms in the comments how much I love what she talks about. It's what fulfill me. And so I started learning about all these things through NLP and mindfulness and all these trainings that I did, and ended up pursuing my passion too of public speaking, which was my number one fear. I never was able to do this. And as Leslie know, I recently stepped on the stage and talked to 400 people, a topic that was something from my heart, a message that was born from my heart, from my experience, from courage, from pain. And it was received really, really great. And this message and this doing this was when now my purpose is even more clear. What I want to do now with all my learnings and my coaching. So I wanted to share that. And one more thing about the journaling, all of that, I share the same beliefs on these tools. And one more thing about maybe practices that I do and that help me to overcome the fear and be able to do this brave thing that I did, courageous thing that I did. It was using tools of NLP like reframing failure. We all think about failure as something that we should avoid. And the way that I learned to reframe that was with powerful language, and that's what NLP teaches, is neuro-linguistic programming. So we reprogram our brains by really challenging those beliefs that we have. In my case, failing was a strong belief that I was very afraid of. And the way that I challenged that belief was asking myself, but what about people who had succeeded? How many times did they fail? So should I fail fast so that I can succeed fast? If I don't fail, then how I'm going to succeed? I need to fail because I need to learn. So the way that I reframed failure was thinking that failure is just practice to become good at something that you want to be good at.
Well, when you say that failure is actually how we learn, and our belief or our fear is our belief in the fact that failure is a bad thing because we have failed so many times. But in reality, those few percent who are happy, healthy, and wealthy and set and achieve their goals embrace failure. However, there's only a handful of people out of 100 that have even gotten to this place. So one last question for you, Sandra. In terms of actually stepping out and finishing your book, but particularly going to Texas and speaking on the stage when we know that the fear of criticism and judgment with public speaking is so strong. What is it that had you take the plunge and sign up? Because you had to sign up, fill out an application, and take those first 2 steps into doing something that you'd always been afraid of.
Yeah, well, it was the passion for the business that I'm building requires me to be able to speak, to use my voice, right?
Got it.
To tell people what I know. And I know many things, and I never was able to share in a way that, that I wanted to share. So my passion is to really help people with what I know that has helped me to overcome many limiting beliefs that I have. So I guess it was the desire to build this business. I start looking at what do I need? What do I need to learn?
What about this? So what kind of came to me while you were speaking was it reached a point where the message you had and your clarity that people need to hear from this to grow outweighed your fear of public speaking, because you're either heart-centered or you're in fear. Something happened to you with all the learning, perhaps. You became more and more aware, but those same things still exist. The fear of public speaking didn't go away, but what did occur, would you agree, is a compelling, almost obsession to get your voice out there because you are now clear about the value of what you're sharing.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's just so powerful that it feels lighter to just face the fear than to stay in the place I was. That feels very heavy for me. I cannot stay in that place anymore. I need just to keep facing my fears.
Yes. And here's the other thing. If you look at this, what about all the physicians that go to Africa to work on these terrible diseases, Ebola and everything? Okay, how is it they're not all dead? These viruses are very dangerous. It's exactly what you're talking about, Sandra. This distinction is that they are completely heart-centered. Their desire to serve outweighs their fear. And that's actually what happened to you. The thing is, we don't know exactly when it's going to happen, when we have enough, when our own self-image gets to the point. But I believe that the universe and our God as our co-creator is the one that pulls the trigger on that and says, okay, Sandra, you've done it. Now,
right, and
go ahead.
And it's so true what you're saying. And there is this that I heard once, that you have to touch bottom to be able to come back, with what the universe, have for you. And when that's happening to you, when you're touching bottom, you should embrace that. When you're facing a hard situation, is really testing you to the core for you to embrace and really get through that. It's pushing you to get through that is necessary to get through, to be on the other side where you need to be. So when you touch bottom in any situation, even if it's a divorce, even if it's a bad situation, is to get you to the other side. So always embrace whatever is going on, because it has a higher purpose.
Yes. And that's the other side. This is the law of faith or fear. It's the age-old fight between the devil and the angel. And when we know that our fears are stronger than our faith, it really takes something for you to do what you did. It takes courage. Somebody brought up the word courage. Was that you, Joni? It takes courage.
Yeah.
There's something within you, and what is within you is God and the universe. When we say co-creators, we're not talking about a guy up there in the sky who's sending down things. Oh, you're a good girl today. You're getting this, right? No, you are the universe. Now, I know that we don't all understand exactly 100% how that works, but I've seen the results, and it looks to me like we are in deep partnership all the time. And the fight is between the whisper of your intuition in the universe to be heard over the cacophony of fears that are loud and dominating. So let's see what Joe has to say, and then we're going to end because we're late again. But anyway, it's been fun. Do you have something you want to say?
I just want to say, rise up against those fears. And also, you know, that wonderful book that came out that's like, it's like something like we practice for like 8,000 hours on something, anyone can become a master. And so it's so empowering. So if you think like you suck at singing, you could actually train your voice to like be better. You think you suck at writing, like you could train yourself. So your first book might not be even the best, but like keep at it.
But this is great. This speaks to repetition being the first law of learning. There is no overnight.
Yeah.
There is no, you must, and you have to put in the time. It's intentional thought because, right. And it's a persistence on your part. This is why you only want to have one goal.
I mean, if you like have first husband and just fail miserably, put more time in, you'll find more.
Yeah. All right, honey.
Yeah, I just want to say that part of repetition is so true. It just spoke to me when you were saying, because for the speech, I was thinking, oh my God, I cannot memorize this. And I thought, I'm not going to memorize my speech. But as I was, going through it 100 times, I became the message. Like I just didn't even need the script anymore. It just practice.
And what you actually achieve is something, actually, I created this level, but it's context competence. What that means is, Sandra, when you get to that point, you could be in context with a group of plumbers. Let's say that you had an audience of plumbers. All your examples would automatically reshape into examples that they would relate to. Or you could have a group of physicians. So what happens is when you become context competent, you can speak to any group. And really what's happening, this is a download from the universe. Your ability to, on the fly, use your same example for plumbers or for doctors or for real estate agents, that's when you know you've achieved mastery, is when you can walk into any room of any industry and give that presentation as though you created it for them. I'm telling you.
But also it's like when you know all people are human, they're all just humans. They all just tinkle on a potty just like us.
No. That's true. All right. Well, we're going to end it with tinkling on the potty. Okay. I want to thank Deb for coming up, and Queen Lafiti Faith, and also Sean Michael, who has a show at 12. You can pick up Lydia Lowry Bustlers, which is, I don't know if she goes more than a half hour, but she's in that now every Monday at 11 o'clock. And I thank you both for being here. I'm so excited that you came up on stage, and your shares were perfect. Both of you all of you, and especially, I would say, my wonderful co-host, Nicole, always in context. So now we have a whole new week. And my intention and our intention is that this made a difference to you, that it made a difference, that you saw something about yourself maybe you didn't see before. And if there were things that were confusing, just wait until you hear it from someone else. Remember, Deb said that she had heard 3 times this week the story of the Chinese bamboo. I've been teaching that video. Go look at it. It's about 6 minutes for 17 years because it includes all the laws of the universe, the Hermetic principles. And it's a story of persistence and focus and love and fearing or facing your fears and having complete faith and creating habit. And the end result then matches. The universe says, fine, you've done this for 5 years. Now watch what happens. And the Chinese bamboo grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. But think about the 5 years that was spent nurturing when nothing was showing. So I highly recommend that I listened to the one by Ginny Dye, D-Y-E, on YouTube, and it's called The Miracle of Chinese Bamboo. See if you can pick out all the universal laws. I am grateful to my co-host, Nicole, to our visitors on stage, and particularly to you in the audience for all your fine comments and questions. I will come back and respond to them. And as you go out into your week, I will sing you out. You can leave whenever you like. I hope you like this song. This is an old Frank Sinatra song. It's kind of romantic, and I love it. So have a great week, everybody. Reach out if you need me. And I'll be in here Friday at 10 a.m. with a new version of Think and Grow Rich. Just wait. And here we go. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fill my heart with song, let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Little Rocky there at the end. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So happy to see you this morning. Have a brilliant week, everybody. And know that you are seen and you are loved.